Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Test Flight in the Focke-Wulf 190. And this is part 3, where we're going to finally get this aircraft into the air after going through some looks at the basic systems and learning the cockpit layout and learning what the indicators are. Always important if you're trying to successfully get an aircraft in the air, I suppose. And let's go ahead and get ready for takeoff. So, takeoff procedures. Follow the below procedure to perform a normal takeoff. In conditions of high humidity and temperatures below 0 degrees Celsius, switch on pitot and windshield heating. And I believe that's already on by default. That's nav lights. I believe this... Nope. One of these breakers is windshield and pitot heating. There we go. Pitot heat and heating cover on. I believe that's what it's referring to. I've already got it on. No reason to switch it off at this point. Unless, I wonder if we're running the risk of overheating. A lot of times if you don't have airflow over heated elements on an aircraft, you can start to overheat those elements. So I'll leave it on for now. I don't think there's any harm in it, but I might consider next time not enabling that until I actually do take off. Okay, switch on both fuel pumps and switch the indicator to the rear tank. Okay, so both fuel pumps are on, as indicated by the breakers and indicated by the lever that it says fuel tank selector valve. Let me go to the manual real quick and just remind myself exactly what this does. I can't remember if it actually, I think this ties into the pumps themselves. I think this is like a pump control, not necessarily a cutoff from the tank control. I'll explain when I get back. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, I'm back, and what I was checking was whether or not this lever controlled the pumps themselves, or if they just closed a valve and isolated a specific tank. Now, according to the manual, and I would have to, I don't know, it's something I'll research, I'll try to find some other documentation. According to the manual, they simply cut off the flow from a tank, they don't affect the pumps. So as far as I can tell, the pumps are going to be operating, and this just closes some sort of a valve to the forward and aft tank, forward or aft tank. But right now it's in the up position, so both tanks are operating. Okay, I'll take that as is. I think it'll work just fine in either case. Okay, so switch the indicator to the rear tank. I need it. Yeah, I am in the Hinton position. I am reading off the rear tank. Okay, in case flight is conducted with auxiliary drop tank, initially only the rear tank fuel pump and the EP1E drop tank pump are to be switched on. Okay, this is... well, I guess that's where I was reading the other day, and yeah, this in combination with a whole lot of other stuff just kind of throws me off on this. So it's telling me right here to only leave the rear tank and the Sonder, the drop tank fuel pump on. I'm going to take that to mean that I disable it through the circuit breaker, the forward fuel pump. Yes, that is exactly what it told me to do. So I've disabled my forward Vorn fuel pump, and yeah, that should do it. Okay, set flaps for takeoff position. Okay, I already got that earlier. Verify takeoff position by observing the mechanical indicator on the wing. The electrical indicator only shows full landing or up positions, green or red lights on the left side of the panel. Okay, so I have these indicators down here. Okay, the center one, I believe, yeah, the center one is the flap position. The yellow light is telling me that it's in the, I believe, yeah, that's how that works. The yellow light's telling me it's in the takeoff position. The two green lights are telling me that my gear are down and locked. So if I were in the flaps up position, I would have the top light on, flaps full down, bottom light on. So okay, that's verified, and I already verified my mechanical visual indications for the flaps. Got it. Okay, pushing the stick forward unlocks the tail wheel, making steering difficult. The best takeoff procedure is to hold the tail wheel down by pulling the stick towards you until sufficient speed or rudder control is attained, and then allow the tail to rise slowly. Some rudder input may be necessary to maintain heading as the tail is lifted and stabilized in the takeoff attitude. Okay, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I should be actually out on the runway as I'm going through this part, but I'll finish this just so I know what's coming, and then just use it for reference once we're out there. Swiftly advance the throttle into takeoff position. Hold the flight stick back with only a light feel. Do not push forward. Takeoff distance without wind effect is approximately 350 to 400 meters. And I have zero wind set up for this mission, so it should be ideal conditions, I would hope. Takeoff is at 170 to 180 kph or kilometers per hour, and performed on a 3 points throughout takeoff roll. Keep the aircraft straight. Aircraft does not have a tendency to break out. That actually confuses me right there. Did it not just say that I would allow the tail to rise slowly? But then it tells me right here that I maintain a 3 point with the tail wheel on the runway attitude throughout the takeoff roll. Maybe this is just referring to the initial part of the takeoff roll, and then maybe at this speed I let the tail come up. Because what I'm afraid of in this takeoff roll is that in this attitude with the tail down, that I might be carrying too much alpha, too much AOA on the aircraft, and I'm going to be very, very close to stall just by virtue of the angle of the wings if I don't allow the tail to come up. And we'll have to see how this works. I'm not confident that this is telling me exactly the best way or the right way or a way to make this successful right here in the procedure, but I'll figure it out as we go. Okay, so during takeoff, engine speed may reach a maximum of 3,300 RPM, and engine power is set according to RPM indicator. Every throttle setting corresponds to a specific engine speed setting maintained by the hydraulically operated governor. And then I have a listing of power settings. Okay, got that. Then we get into the retraction of the gear. So it's just going to be a standard takeoff, gear up, flaps up. I don't think anything here is going to give me any illumination on additional procedures or additional requirements during takeoff. So I think I can safely skip forward to the climb section and hit this once I get airborne. Okay. So for now, let me go ahead and taxi out to the runway and see how this aircraft handles on the ground. And I can see that my artificial horizon has definitely uncaged. So it might require caging and then re-uncaging. I can see that it's showing me in a right bank and a dive right now. But okay, so, and like I mentioned before, I have the brakes held, which I hate. I would signal for the chocks to be removed at this point. Okay, brakes released. Let me just gently advance the throttle. I've got my stick back to lock the tail wheel. And steering is going to be done using differential braking. So, okay, I'm going to unlock the tail wheel, advance the throttle. I'm just going to lightly tap the brakes. Okay, there's right brake, left brake, just to straighten it out. Okay, tail wheel locked. I'm going to do that by pulling the stick back. Okay, and I can see, yeah, and as I tap the brakes trying to turn to the right with the tail wheel locked, it doesn't really do anything. So I release it, tap the brake, lock the tail wheel. Okay, and now I'm on my way. So I've got a ways to go to the end of the runway. I'm just going to play around with handling, and if anything occurs to me as I'm on the taxi roll to discuss, I'll go over it. If not, I'll see you at the end of the runway. And it most definitely occurs to me as I taxi out that visibility forward in this aircraft is non-existent. So, a technique, and I'm getting a little bit too fast now, but a technique would be to just kind of make S-turns, and I'll just kind of do this. Okay, there, I can see that I'm good, and I'll just kind of, S back around to the right. Maybe not that aggressively. I would need to get some more feel and more technique going there, but just kind of making little turns like that as opposed to just taxiing straight forward, just so you can see what's in front of you out there on the runway. It seems like a valid technique to me, at least, and I'll press on here and see you in a bit. Okay, and approaching the end of the runway, let me slow her down a little bit. Okay, tail wheel is unlocked. I'm just going to gently pump the brake, bring it around to the left, and we'll get her lined up on the center line and get this thing airborne. Okay, a little power. Okay, keep her coming. Just a touch of the brakes. Okay, straighten it out. Tail wheel locked with stick aft. Okay, and just forward just a touch, just to get her lined up on the center line. And I'll pull the throttle back and just leave the RPMs right there at about 1100 while I sit here and think for a second. Okay, what am I missing here? Okay, I've got flaps set for takeoff. I've got zero trim. I've got... Okay, I need to clean up my artificial horizon, so let me recage and uncage. Okay, that's squared away now. Okay, flight instruments. Okay, I did make a good guess. 240 is going to be the runway heading. Okay, all gauges are good for pressures and temperatures for now. Okay, everything is still looking just fine. Okay, so let's think about how we need to get this thing off the runway. I've done this once, but as I was taxiing, my confidence level went lower and lower and lower. So now here we are. I'll try to make this work. Okay, takeoff, 170 to 180. I've got that center line tank. I've got a lot of weight on the aircraft, so I'm thinking more like 190 to 200. I'm going to hold that off and I think absolutely sure I've got enough airspeed to be able to control it once I get airborne. I mentioned that earlier, that stalling the aircraft immediately upon rotation and even before I get airborne is what I really worry about in this takeoff. Okay, so I'll be looking to release the tailwheel lock at about a little over 100 and start controlling with rudder. 200, we'll get airborne and we'll just see how things go from there and work on technique as we go. I know that in this aircraft I don't need to creep the throttle forward. I just need to smoothly advance it to full, and we'll have to see how it goes. Okay, here we go. So, okay, brakes are held. I'm going to release the brakes. Okay, I've got my tail wheel locked. Okay, let's see what we can make happen here. Throttle full. Okay, a little touch of the right brake just to maintain track. Okay, 90. 100, a little bit more braking. Little rudder. Okay, tail wheel released, rudder. Okay, I got to control that. Okay, got it. Okay, 170, 180. 190. Airborne. That did not feel smooth, but I will take that any day. Okay, let me pull the throttle just in a touch. Now let me go gear up. Okay, here come the gear. I can see those indicators out there on my wing is starting to go down. Boy, I think once a person gets the timing down on, okay, wingman, okay, there goes my radio. I think once a person gets the timing figured. Okay, let me pull the throttle back. I overshot my speed for getting the flaps up, so let me go flaps up. I think the key there is the timing for when you release the tail wheel and start to control it with the rudder. I think I was just off on the timing. That made it a little bit hard to control. I'm surprised I was able to recover that. That just felt like it was about to go downhill in a hurry. Okay, so checklist. Let's go into the climb procedure. Okay, let's make sure I didn't miss anything here, though. Okay, retraction of the gear. Landing gear must be retracted below 250. I got that. After takeoff, briefly and lightly apply the brakes and retract the gear. Okay, I've got to remember to apply the brakes. And what that's going to do is, when you lift off, the wheels are going to keep turning. So you want to tap the brakes to stop the wheels so that they don't do any damage once they come up into the gear, main gear wells on the wings. Okay, so 2 is airborne on the rejoin. I'm just going to circle here over the airfield briefly while I get caught back up. Okay, push the button, red operating button on the left side panel to the on position. Okay, that's just retracting the gear. Electrical indicator on the left side panel, mechanical ones on the upper wings. I saw the mechanical ones, the electrical ones. Okay, I'm showing gear up, flaps up. Okay, let me get the trim set up here so I don't fly the thing into the ground. I'm just trimming nose up. Okay, nose down just a touch more. Okay, I'm going to leave it trimmed out right there and just circle the airfield until I'm ready to press on and get out to the range. Okay, both main gears and the tail wheel are retracted when both red control lamps are illuminated. Check the marker pins on the wings. Got it. Only after retracting the gear, retract the flaps. Already got that. Red control lamp illuminates. Saw that. And avoid sudden bursts of power during takeoff. Make it smooth and steady. Okay, absolutely. Okay, then we get into the climb. So, I'll tell you what. Let me go ahead and pause the video here and take a quick break. we'll get into the climb procedures and really start to ring out the aircraft systems and see what all is going on here. So, hey, thanks again for watching. I will see you next time.